Hey guys, welcome back to ToonBlend 3D. In this video, we're going to go through the full process of creating the Cactus Skull Prisoner character. First, we'll start by drawing the sketch to define the overall shape, proportions, and personality of the character. This sketch will make the modeling process much easier later. After that, we'll continue with the modeling process from the sketch. Next, we'll set up the rig and create a simple animation so the character can move properly. Then we'll continue with UV unwrapping, starting from adding mark seams to mapping the UV. After that, we'll move on to texturing using Ucupaint, starting from the base color all the way to the final texture. And finally, we'll do a simple export of the character into Godot. So yeah, let's get started with the character sketch process. I'm using Krita here, which is a free software, so it really helps a lot, just like Blender. So yeah, big thanks to the developers of both of these amazing tools. Alright, let's just get started. First, open Krita, then create a new image. Set the canvas size you want. Here I'm using 1024 by 1024 since it's for texture, then click OK. After that, you'll see the workspace with a blank white canvas and a background layer. This workspace is already customized by me, so if you're opening Krita for the first time, it probably won't look like this. You can change and customize the workspace however you like. Click the workspace icon on the top right, and you can switch or create different workspaces. Let's switch back to the default workspace for a second. And now, it changes to the default layout. For this example, I'm using a modified version of my previous workspace. You can also add new dockers if you want. Just go to Settings, then Dockers, and check the ones you want to add. For example, let's add the Artistic Color Selector docker. It shows up in the workspace, and then you can drag it from the top area and place it wherever you want. You can keep adjusting other dockers the same way. You can also move dockers around pretty freely in Krita. It's kind of similar to Blender, but Blender is more limited, usually just swapping positions. Once you're done setting up the workspace, you can save it. Just give it a name, and now your layout is saved, so you don't have to set it up again later. Next, you can also change the theme. Go to Settings, then Theme. I'm using a theme from the Krita artist community made by a member named Zodiaco. This theme really helps me, so big thanks to Zodiaco and the Krita community. I also tweaked it a bit by making the white font color brighter. For the installation, you can check tutorials on YouTube or look it up directly on their discussion forums. Before we start sketching on the canvas, let's pick a brush first. Krita has a lot of brushes, so you've got plenty of options depending on what you want to draw. Personally, I use the basic to opacity brush most of the time. Just go with whatever brush feels comfortable for you, so feel free to try a few. Next, add a new layer. Layers help you separate strokes and colors on the canvas, so it's easier to manage. By default, you'll already have a background layer when creating a new image. Hold Shift, then left-click and drag to adjust the brush size. You can also change the color selector type if you want. Left-click and drag to pick and adjust your brush color. Before jumping into drawing, it's important to decide your base idea first, so think about what you want to create. Write down all your ideas, and you can keep adding more as you go, since ideas usually come during the process. After that, rename this layer as the Idea layer, then add another layer to start sketching. Before sketching, turn on the mirror tool if you want a symmetrical character, especially for front and back views. Use horizontal mirror for left and right symmetry, and vertical mirror for top and bottom. You can also combine both if you want full symmetry. You can lock and hide the mirror so it won't get in the way while you're drawing. Next, start with a simple body shape first. The shape really affects the character's personality. For example, a round shape makes the character feel heavy and slow, while a square shape feels stiff and solid, like a rock. You can check references on Pinterest to learn more about how shapes affect character design. Since I want this character to feel slow, I'm going with a round shape. While sketching, you can also think ahead about whether the form will be easy to model later in 3D. Then start adding elements based on the ideas we wrote earlier. Here, I begin shaping the head with a skull theme. Each part affects the character's personality, especially the face. For example, straight line eyes can make the character feel lazy and passive. Smiling eyes feel more cheerful and friendly. Here I'm using simple round empty eyes, which makes the character feel blank, passive, and kind of mindless, which fits the slow vibe. Then continue building the body so it matches the character's personality. If you want to move a part of the sketch, like this head that feels a bit too low, first, select it using the selection tool. Here I'm using the rectangular selection tool. After selecting the head, use the Transform tool or press Ctrl+T. Before moving it, make sure the correct layer is selected, the one that contains your sketch. Then drag it upward, hold Shift to keep the movement straight. If you want to scale it, drag from the corner of the Transform box, hold Alt so it scales evenly from both sides, and hold Shift to keep the proportions consistent. Next, let's check our idea list. Looks like most of it is done, but we still need to add the cactus feel. So I look for cactus references on Pinterest and simplify it into key elements like flowers and the vertical lines on the body. Then start applying those to the character, like adding a flower on the back and the body line. Cactus is also known for its spikes, but here I won't make them as actual geometry. Instead, I'll add them later in the texture details. Then continue refining the body. For example, making the belly a bit bigger to give a heavier feel. Now all the main ideas are already applied to the character, but it still looks a bit too plain, so maybe we can add one more element. At first I thought about adding knuckles, since the hands look empty. But then I decided to switch it to handcuffs. I'm planning to make this character low poly later, so I try to keep the shapes as simple as possible. Then add some small details, like scratches on the forehead, so it doesn't feel too plain. And don't forget to save your file regularly. Before moving on to the side view, adjust the position and scale of the front view first so it sits nicely in the center of the canvas. Next, create a new layer for the right view. Then lower the opacity of the front view layer so it doesn't get in the way and can be used as a guide. Make sure to turn off the mirror before starting the right side. Start by matching the top part of the character first. Use the front flower as a reference for the top height. You can use mirror view and rotate canvas to make drawing more comfortable. Here, the back part is actually higher than the front, which shouldn't happen if we use the front as the height reference. So if we leave it like this, the right side won't match properly with the front and back views. For the head, you can draw a straight guideline to help keep the position accurate. Then continue by adding the flower on the back. You can redraw it manually or just copy it. Select the first flower, press Ctrl+C, then paste it with Ctrl+V. When you paste, it will create a new layer. Then move it using the Transform tool and adjust the position. By copying it, all the flowers will have the same shape. To merge it, right-click the new layer, then choose Merge with Layer Below or press Ctrl+E. Make sure the layer below is the correct one before merging. Then continue shaping the handcuffs while cleaning up the previous sketch lines. Use hatching to mark areas that will be darker later, and keep adding small details to refine the character. Next, let's create another version of the right side, but without the arm. This helps us clearly define the belly shape that was previously covered. Duplicate the layer by right-clicking and choosing Duplicate Layer, or just press Ctrl+J. Then hide the first right layer and remove the arm on the duplicated right layer. Then turn the first right layer back on and lower the opacity. Then continue shaping the belly on the duplicated right layer. Once done, you can rename the layer if you want. After that, group both right side layers, select both layers while holding Ctrl. Then right-click and choose Quick Group or press Ctrl+G. Next, let's create the back view. Duplicate the front layer and rename it to Back. Then remove the head and belly parts and adjust the arm lines to be straighter so it forms the back shape. Continue by adding details and the flower using the right view as a reference. Next, you can add paw details on the bottom of the hands and feet. This part is optional since the bottom of the character isn't usually very visible. Just adjust it based on your needs. Create a new layer for the paw, then look for references like cat paws or even the inside texture of a cactus. Once done, you can merge it back into the front layer. And after this, we're ready to move on to coloring. Before we start, group all the front, right, and back layers into one group. Then rename it to mark that this group has no color. Next, create a new layer for building a color palette. In Krita, there's a palette docker available, so you can pick colors from existing palettes, but sometimes it's still confusing to decide which colors to use and how to combine them. So before that, let's go over a bit of basic color theory, just the fundamentals like hue, saturation, and value. You can also learn basic color combinations like analog, complementary, triadic, and others. There are tons of references on Pinterest and YouTube that explain these really well. After learning the basics, it might feel like coloring is complicated, but don't overthink it too much. Just use color theory as a guide, not a strict rule. Because if you stress too much, you might not finish the coloring at all. So the key is to stay relaxed and enjoy the process. Next, let's choose the main color or dominant color, since the biggest part of this character is the cactus body. We'll go with green as the main color. You can adjust the saturation level using the artistic color selector. Once you've picked the main color, try applying color combination methods from color theory. Start with complementary, where the second color is opposite of the main color. Then split complementary, which is similar, but one side is split into two options. Then analog, where colors are taken from nearby hues of the main color. Then triadic, where the colors form a triangle on the color wheel. Then tetradic, which forms a rectangle. And lastly, square, which is similar to triadic but forms a square. And honestly, you can also mix these approaches to get the results you like. After that, rename the layer to palette. Then duplicate the layer and choose the palette that feels right. Here I'm going with the triadic palette, and I delete the rest. Now start coloring the character. Begin with the body, then move to the flower, and finally, the handcuffs. Next, choose a color for the skull head. I'm using a slightly greenish white, kind of similar to an analog approach. Then fill in the skull head. For the paw, this part is optional. Even though I plan to texture it later in Blender, I decided to remove it. Somehow, it feels a bit uncomfortable visually, like it might trigger trypophobia because of the dense, small shapes, so I feel like it could be distracting. Next, we'll pick additional colors from each main color using an analog approach. Start from the green, then shift the hue slightly left and right to get highlight and shadow colors. Then begin adding highlights and shadows to the character. Use alpha lock on the layer so when you paint, the color stays within the existing pixels. After that, add more details to the body like scratches and small holes. You can also add color variations by slightly shifting the hue and value depending on what you need. Then repeat the same process for the flower and the handcuffs. For this coloring stage, I'm only painting the front view because I think it's enough as a reference for coloring later in 3D, even though the final result in 3D will definitely look a bit different from this reference. After finishing the coloring, let's check the value composition using Grayscale. This is important to make sure the focus of the character reads clearly. Press Ctrl plus Shift plus U to activate the Desaturate filter and turn everything into grayscale. Then choose Create Filter Mask. This way, you can toggle it on and off anytime. As you can see, the grayscale values already have some contrast between objects, especially between the head and the body. But the contrast still feels a bit weak in some areas, so I'll adjust the handcuffs and the flower. For the handcuffs, try adjusting the value. Make it brighter than the body if you want it to stand out more. Or darker if you want the body to be more dominant. Here, I make it darker because I want the body to stand out. You can control the value by adjusting the saturation and brightness of the color. Once it feels right, rebuild the palette again using an analog approach. Then do the same process for the flower. After that, update your triadic palette and remove any unused colors. Then finish up the coloring, like refining small parts if needed. Next, we save each view, front, right, and back. You can use export or save as. Here, I'm using export. Before exporting, make sure only the layers you want are visible. For example, if you want to export the front view with colors, just enable the front sketch and color layers. Then go to File and choose Export. Give it a name and make sure to add a view label at the end, like using a capital F for the front view. Then repeat the same steps for the right and back views. And that's it. The sketch reference for creating the 3D character is done. Next, we'll continue by building the 3D version in Blender. First, open Blender. Then we'll start by adding the image references. Before that, let's set the viewport direction. Move your mouse over the viewport, then press backtick to open the view menu and choose front view. Or you can just press numpad 1. If you're using a laptop without a numeric keypad, you can enable it in Preferences. Go to Edit, then Preferences, then Input. Under Keyboard, turn on Emulate, then Save Preferences, or turn on Autosave so you don't have to save it manually. Now your number keys will work as shortcut keys for changing the view. Next, let's add the reference image. Press Shift+A, go to Image, then choose Reference. Then load your front view image. Scroll up and down to zoom in and out. Hold Shift plus middle mouse to move around the viewport. Then position the reference so it sits nicely in the center. Next, let's add the right side reference. Switch to right view first. You can press numpad 3, then add the right view image. Since we made two versions, one with the arm and one without, we'll add both. Start with the one with the arm, then add the one without the arm. Next, you can hide each reference image by clicking the eye icon in the scene collection on the top right. For now, let's hide the right reference, then let's rename each reference first. Start with the front reference. Double-click the file name or press F2 to rename it. Then do the same for the right references, and make sure to give them different names. Before adding the back reference, let's adjust the visibility settings. For example, when you switch to the back view, the front reference is still visible, even though it shouldn't be. So we want the front reference to only be visible from the front view. Select the front reference, then go to Object Data Properties, change the side option from both to front. Now the front reference will only be visible from the front side. Next, add the back reference image and rename it. Then try setting the side to back. But if you check from the front view, the back reference is still visible, and from the back view, it disappears. This happens because the front and back side settings refer to the image itself, not the viewport. Since we added the back reference while in the back view, the front side of that image is actually facing the back view, and the back side is facing the front view. So if you want it to be visible from the back view, you need to set the side to front. Or you can re-add the back reference. Select the back reference and press X to delete it. Then add it again while in the front view and set the side to back. This way, the orientation will match the viewport. Then rename it again. Next, unhide all reference images. Press A to select all of them. Then press G, then Z, and move them so the character's feet sit on the ground line. After that, let's adjust the opacity. Enable opacity while holding Alt to apply it to all references at once. Then adjust the value, also while holding Alt. For the right view, hide the version without the arm, and with that, the reference setup is done. Next, we're going to start modeling the character. Before that, rename the collection to Ref. Then add a new collection and name it Mesh. Now press Shift+A, then add a circle. Set the vertices to 6. Go into Edit mode. Press S to scale, G to move, and R to rotate. Position the circle around the shoulder area and also adjust it from the right view. Then press E to extrude, rotate and follow the flow of the arm. Then continue until the end of the hand, and keep adjusting it from the right view as you go. You can use the middle mouse to control the axis direction. Then for the tip, scale it inward. Then close the hole by switching to face mode and using grid fill. For the left side, add a mirror modifier and enable clipping. Next, let's move to the leg. Add a cylinder, set the vertices to 6, and set cap fill type to nothing. temporarily disable clipping on the mirror so it's easier to position the leg. Then align the bottom of the leg with the end of the arm. Enable snapping, set it to active, and target vertex. Select the bottom vertex of the leg, move it down, then snap it to the vertex at the end of the arm. Then rotate the leg 90 degrees, press R, then Z, then type 90. Continue shaping it just like the arm. For the top part, tilt it slightly. Then hide all references. Select the 3 inner top vertices of the leg while holding Shift. Then continue extrude them to the side. And make sure clipping on the mirror is enabled again. Next, let's shape the body of the character. Add a plane, then rotate it 90 degrees on the X-axis. Position and scale it to match the head area. Then extrude the top part of the plane and follow the curve of the back. Switch to the back view and adjust it from there. Then connect it to the leg. Select the 4 vertices and press F to create a face. Then select a vertex from the bottom to the top while holding Ctrl to select the edge loop between them. Move it slightly downward so it sits below the center. Next, connect the vertices around the shoulder area. Then continue by creating faces on the back. Select the vertices around the elbow area and press F. Continue filling and adjusting the topology to follow the flow. Press slash to focus on the object. And you can hide the arm for now. Select the arm faces. Then press H to hide them. Then continue filling the remaining empty faces. Next, let's build the belly. Start by extruding from the side, then rotate it and connect it to the front. Continue filling the remaining faces. Here, try to keep most of the topology in quads, especially around the shoulder area. Since adjusting vertices one by one in edit mode can be tiring, you can switch to sculpt mode. Then, use the grab brush by pressing G. Then start adjusting the overall shape. It doesn't have to match the reference perfectly. Just keep the overall shape and proportions close so it still feels consistent. Then press Alt plus H to unhide the arm, and make sure to check and adjust the topology from all views. Once the body topology feels clean enough, let's move on to the head. Start by selecting the face on the head area using Face Select mode. Then duplicate it by pressing Shift plus D. Then press Shift plus H to hide everything except the selection. Next, subdivide the face. Then bevel the edges using Ctrl plus B. Start adjusting the vertices to form a circular head shape. For the mouth, extrude from the bottom edge. Then extrude the entire head, then flatten it by pressing S, then Y, then 0. Then continue shaping the head. Then make sure the inner base faces of the head stay inside the body surface. Then you can enable statistics and viewport overlays to see the vertex or triangle count. This count already includes the mirror modifier. Next, let's create the flower on the character's back. Go back to Object Mode, then add a cylinder. Set the vertices to 6, and also set the cap fill type to a single face. Go into Edit Mode and adjust the position and scale to match the reference. Then add an edge loop in the middle by pressing Ctrl+R. Then shape it to make it more rounded and slightly pointy at the top. If you follow the reference exactly, the placement might not sit well on a flat face, and matching it perfectly would require adjusting the back topology. So instead, we'll make the base of the flower fit properly onto the surface of the body. Enable snapping with face nearest, then select the bottom face of the flower, press G, and don't move the mouse. This will snap it cleanly to the surface without shifting its position. Then duplicate the flower mesh. Next, remove half of the mesh and add a mirror modifier. Since the top and bottom are still a single face, we need to split them. Press K to use the knife tool, then cut a line across the top and bottom. After that, select the center edge and move it to the middle so the vertices merge together. Next, let's create the handcuffs on the character. Press Alt+Q to quickly switch to another mesh while in edit mode. Before that, refine the arm if it still feels off. Then add an edge loop and flatten it by pressing S, Z, then 0, then split it into 2, and adjust the position to match the reference. Then duplicate and extrude the face loop using Alt+E. Then continue by adjusting the scale. Next, extrude and scale the side faces of the handcuffs. Then continue refining and checking the overall topology, especially around the belly and shoulder areas. And with that, the modeling process for the Cactus Skull Prisoner character is done. Next, we're going to create the rig and set up a simple animation so the character can move and feel more alive. First, add an armature and make sure you're in object mode. Press Shift+A, then go to Armature, then choose Basic Human Rig. Then go to Object Data Properties. Open Viewport Display and enable in front, so the bones are always visible. Now switch to Edit Mode to adjust the armature. Before that, enable X-axis mirror to make things easier. Start by selecting the arm bones and adjust them to match the character's arm. Make sure the tip bone reaches the end of the hand mesh. This bone needs to stay, otherwise the rig can break when generating. Place the middle bone right at the elbow area. Use snapping with vertex target to align the bone tips properly. Then continue adjusting from the right side view. Make sure the shoulder bone lines up straight with the upper arm. Next, move on to the legs. Adjust the leg bones from both front and side views, then scale them to match the size of the character's legs. Next, adjust the first spine bone so it stands straight, following the legs. Then continue adjusting the rest of the spine bones. After that, adjust the neck and head bones. Since the default spine count isn't enough to follow the back shape, we can add more bones. Select 2 spine bones, right-click, then choose Subdivide. This will double the number of bones. Then adjust their positions to follow the back shape. Finally, refine any bones that still feel off, like the foot bone. Make it as wide as the character's foot. Then let's add a bone for the belly area. You can add a bone with Shift plus A, but if you do that, it won't be generated like the others. So to make it work with Rigify, we need to assign a rig type manually. Go to Object Data Properties. Then, open the Rigify samples. Here, choose a basic supercopy bone. Then click Add Sample to create the bone. Now position the bone in the belly area. After that, parent this bone to the spine. Select the belly bone first, then select the spine bone. Press Ctrl plus P and choose Keep Offset. Now the belly bone will follow the spine. Once everything feels ready, try generating the rig. Then, if you get an error, check the message at the bottom. In this case, it shows an issue with spine.004. It means the bone is not properly connected to the previous spine bone. To fix it, connect them using vertex snapping. Select the tip of the bone, then snap it to the previous spine bone. Then adjust the rig again if needed. For example, you can refine the neck bone. Just make sure all bones are properly connected to avoid errors. Then generate the rig again. Once it works, the rig controls will appear automatically. Now you can hide the meta rig. Next, select the rig, then press A to select all. Press Ctrl plus P and choose with automatic weights. Now the character is bound to the rig. Select the rig and switch to pose mode. Enable X-ray mode so you can see the whole rig. Then try testing the rig by moving or rotating each bone. You can also control which rig layers are visible from the Item tab. Next, let's adjust the bone widget using the Bone Widget add-on. Select the widget you want to change, then choose a shape. For example, select the foot widget rig, change it to a cube, then click Create. The widget will change to a cube shape. Then if it still needs adjustment, select Edit Widget. This will take you into edit mode. Then adjust the shape as you like. When you're done, click the bone to go back to pose mode. You can match the left side by using Symmetrize Shape, then continue adjusting the rest of the widgets. If you run into an issue with Symmetrize Shape, like on the hand control, when you edit it, the shape looks correct in edit mode, but doesn't update in pose mode. To fix this, go back to the meta rig, select all bones and use Symmetrize, then generate the rig again. Your widget changes will stay, and symmetry will work properly. Then continue adjusting the rest of the widgets. Next, let's add bones for the handcuffs. Use the same one as the belly bone. Since there are left and right parts, we'll make them symmetrical. Rename the bones using .L for left and .R for right. Then use Symmetrize to create the other side automatically. After that, parent them to the forearm bone. Then generate the rig again and adjust the handcuff widgets. Next, let's adjust the weight paint so the handcuffs follow the bones properly. Select the mesh you want to adjust, then switch to weight paint mode. Find the handcuffs vertex group. Enable masking, then switch to the gradient brush. This lets you select the faces you want to adjust. Now adjust the weight value. Red means strong influence from the bone. Blue means little to no influence. Then check the other vertex groups and remove any weight affecting the handcuffs that shouldn't be there. You can clean it manually using the gradient brush, but that can take a lot of time. So instead, we'll remove the unused vertex groups. Before that, separate the handcuffs mesh from the body. Select the handcuffs mesh, press P, then choose Selection. Now select the handcuffs mesh. Then lock the handcuffs vertex group. Then delete all unlocked groups. Then do the opposite for the character body mesh. With this setup, the handcuffs will follow the bones properly. Finally, check and adjust the bone widgets if needed. Next, let's create a simple animation. Before that, adjust the layout by adding a Dope Sheet tab. Then enable timecode to replace frames. First, set the total frames. Here we'll use 24 frames. Then split the layout so you can monitor the animation. Now, turn on auto keying, so every movement of the rig will be recorded automatically. Start by setting the first pose on frame 1. Select all the rig, then press I to insert a keyframe. Then copy the keyframe to the last frame, which is frame 24. Since the first and last frames are the same, this will create a looping animation. Next, add a keyframe in the middle at frame 12. Start with something simple, like moving the torso slightly downward. Press spacebar to play the animation. You'll see the character moving up and down in a loop. Press Escape to stop the playback. Then continue adjusting other bones, like the neck, arms, belly, and handcuffs. Then check the result every time you add a keyframe so you can see anything that needs improvement. Once you're done with the animation, it's better to turn off auto keying so you don't accidentally record unwanted changes. Then if the animation feels too fast, you can slow it down by increasing the number of frames. Then select all the rig bones to show all keyframes, then go to frame 1. Then select all keyframes, then scale them to match the new frame range. And with that, the rigging and simple animation process is done. Next, we'll move on to UV unwrapping and texturing. And after that, we'll add a few extra improvements to the character, like fixing the belly mesh shape without needing to unwrap again or worrying about texture stretching, and also adding an ambient occlusion layer, plus adjusting the texture saturation to make the colors look more appealing. So yeah, let's get started. First, switch to the UV editing layout. Then set the rig armature to rest position. After that, hide the armature. Right now, the character is still using a mirror modifier, so the result will stay symmetrical. If you want different textures on the left and right sides, it's better to apply the mirror modifier first. Next, start selecting edges and use Mark Seam. Select edges in areas that should be separated, like the arms and legs. Think of mark seams like cutting and unfolding a fabric pattern for a doll. The seams decide where the mesh will split, so it can unfold properly into a flat surface. Press L and switch to face select mode to check if the seam selection is correct and not leaking into other parts. To preview the result directly, start unwrapping. Select all faces, press U, then choose Unwrap Angle Based. The result will appear in the UV editor. For the back faces of the head, you can delete them if you want to reduce the vertex count, and use Mark Seam around the border edges if you want to separate the faces. But in this tutorial, I'm not doing either of those. For the head, we'll use Project from View. This method unwraps the mesh based on the current viewport angle, so make sure the view is positioned correctly. Then continue with the other meshes. After that, combine all the UV islands by selecting the faces from every mesh, then use Average Island Scale. Then use Pack Islands and adjust the margin to add spacing between the UV islands. Make sure all the UV islands are selected. Next, start adjusting the position and size of each UV island. For example, make the head UV larger. In general, increase the size of any UV that needs more texture detail. Here, we'll straighten the rectangular UV shapes using Straighten UVs from the UV Toolkit add-on. Then make the UV stand upright using Straighten Island on the selected UV edge. For the flower UV islands, we'll stack them together. This way, all the flowers will share the same texture, so you only need to paint one flower texture, and the others will follow automatically. Stack them by placing the UV islands in the exact same position. Then select all 3 UV islands, press M, and choose by distance. After that, adjust the merge distance so the vertices merge properly. Make sure the value is not too high. Otherwise, the vertices can merge incorrectly. Then continue arranging the other UV islands. Next, let's test the UV using a checker map. Adjust the texture size, then choose the checker type. This helps you see how the texture flows across the mesh. For example, the back of the head looks stretched. But since this area doesn't need much detail, I'll leave it as it is. If there are any areas you want to fix, you can redo the marked seams and unwrap the mesh again. Once you're done using the checker map, you can remove the texture, use and remove all checker materials in the Cleanup tab. Next, switch to the texturing layout, then select all the meshes. Before setting up the material, set the character to Shade Smooth. This affects generated layers like Ambient Occlusion, because the shading will influence how the lighting and shadows are calculated. But if you only use pure hand-painted textures with an emission shader, then Shade Smooth will not make much difference, since the texture color is displayed directly without lighting influence. You can also add a subdivision modifier if you want the character to look smoother, but keep in mind, this will increase the vertex count. Next, set up Ucupaint using an emission shader. Enabling alpha is optional. Then press Ctrl+L, then choose Link Material, so all meshes share the same texture material. After that, go to Color Management, then set View Transform to Standard, and set Contrast to None, so the texture colors stay accurate. Now place the reference image on the side of the layout and adjust the opacity. Then create a new image layer for the base color and set the texture resolution. Now, start painting on the character body. You can use Toggle Eraser to remove the paint, or use Reload Image on the layer to completely clear it. Next, add a color palette. Press Shift+X to pick a color sample. Then press left-click to add it to the palette. Then paint the mesh using the fill brush. Then press X to swap between color 1 and color 2, and make sure your cursor is inside the layout area so it works properly. For the head, since it's connected to the body mesh, go into Edit mode and select the head mesh. Then use Paint Mask in Texture Paint mode. This way, only the head area will be painted. Then check every part of the character carefully. If there are colors that don't fill properly, especially around connected areas like the arms, zoom in and repaint the area. Then continue checking the other parts. Next, let's adjust the base colors using the darkest color from each palette, because it's easier to add highlight colors later than to paint shadow colors inside deep and narrow areas. Next, switch to the soft paintbrush. Start testing the brush, then press F to adjust the brush size. After that, duplicate the base layer for the paint layer. Then choose a highlight color based on the base color. Now, start painting the areas where the highlights would reflect. Make sure not to paint across inner border areas in positions like this. Otherwise, the paint will follow the borders, and the colors won't blend together properly. So make sure the mesh position is comfortable before painting. Then continue by sampling colors around any highlight edges that still look too sharp, and paint over them so the colors blend better with the base color. Next, switch to a brighter highlight color, then continue blending the colors together like before. Then use Paint Mask or hide some faces, so the painting process feels more focused and easier to control. While painting, make sure to follow the shape of the character, then continue repeating the same process, while making sure all the colors blend smoothly together. turn the character animation back on, so the painting process feels less steering and more enjoyable. Then continue blending any sharp color transitions until they look softer and smoother. Next, create a new layer for the lines. Then enable Stabilize Stroke on the brush, so it's easier to draw clean lines. Now, start drawing lines on the character body, using a dark color based on the base color. For the belly area, make the lines curve to follow the round shape of the body. Then when drawing lines on the back area from the right view, the lines may look warped instead of straight. This happens because the UV faces are stretched. To reduce the problem, redraw the lines from a different angle. Since the line color still looks too strong compared to the body, lower the layer opacity so the lines blend better with the colors underneath. Then add a mask to the line layer to hide some parts of the lines. While using layer masking, use black and white colors. Black hides or fades the lines, while white brings them back. Now start masking, especially on distorted line areas. Next, create a new layer for detailing. Then adjust the opacity like the line layer. Start adding scratches on the line areas, using a darker version of the base color. Then add highlight colors around the edges of the scratches. Make sure the direction matches the main light source on the body. After that, add circular hole patterns on the body, using the same process as the scratches. Then, continue adjusting the masking. Next, you can add paws on the bottom of the hands and feet. The process is the same as painting the body. Start with the base color. Then add highlights in the center to make them look raised. But in this case, I hide them using masking because they don't look very good and feel a bit uncomfortable to look at. So for the paws, I think they are optional. Or you can improve them yourself, like changing the colors or trying a different design. Next, continue adding highlight details around the line edges of the character. After that, keep refining anything that still feels lacking, like the highlight shading on the body. Next, move on to the face area. Start by adding highlights to the skull. Then create the eye circles using a dark body base color. After that, shape the nose hole and the jaw. Then continue adding highlights to the skull, and make sure the colors blend smoothly. Finally, add a few scratches. Next, increase the opacity of the detail and line layers so they stand out more. Now let's start texturing the flower mesh. Here, the top flower texture looks flipped compared to the others. So fix it by flipping the UV. Then continue merging the vertices together. Since the flower mesh already has a texture, we want to keep the UV position unchanged. So pin both flower UV meshes first. Then snap the vertices one by one to match the pinned UV. Once done, go back to texture paint mode. Now, continue painting the flower mesh. Start by adding highlights and make sure the colors blend well. before continuing with the flower texture. Add shadows on the body under the flower mesh. Then, continue adding lines to the flowers. Then, make the center area of the flower darker. After that, add more details, like highlights around the line edges. Then, add some scratches. Next, add stronger highlights around the circle area on the flower tip. Optionally, add small fibers on the tip, and make sure they don't look too contrasted with the surrounding colors. Next, move on to the handcuffs mesh. Start by adding highlights. Then continue with the lines. After that, add scratch details and other small details. Finally, add shadows around the area, especially under the handcuffs. After finishing the texture, let's bake the texture. Use Bake All channels, then set the resolution. And use the same size as the layers to get the exact same result. Next, adjust the sample value. Higher values will make the generated texture look smoother and less jagged. Then enable anti-aliasing and set the value to 2. Then set the margin type to extend. Next, set the bake device. Here I'm using GPU compute. After that, press OK to start baking. The baking process is quite fast here, because we only use pure hand-painted textures without generated layers. Once the baking is finished, you can still edit the layers again, if needed. Next, let's improve the belly area so it matches the texture better. First, go into Edit mode, then hide the arms first, before changing the belly shape. Go to the Options menu and enable Correct Face Attributes, so the texture will not stretch when moving vertices. Then enable Keep Connected, so the vertices stay connected in the UV map. After that, adjust the belly vertices until the shape looks better. Make sure to check the center vertices, and make sure the texture still looks correct. If it feels difficult to adjust directly on the mesh, you can also edit it from the UV editor. Then continue adjusting the vertices, and make sure they stay inside the texture borders. Once finished, go back to Texture Paint mode. Next, let's add a new layer for Ambient Occlusion. Actually, we could use Generated Ambient Occlusion, then lower the opacity, so it blends better with the other colors. Using Generated Ambient Occlusion can also help show where shadows should appear, but for now, I'm not using it yet. Instead, let's paint it manually on a new image layer. Create a new image layer for the Ambient Occlusion. Start adding Ambient Occlusion from the lower belly area. Use the darker green color from the previous palette. Adjust the strength so it blends smoothly with the other colors, or you can also lower the layer opacity. Then continue adding Ambient Occlusion behind the lower arm area. Next, move to the handcuff wrist area. Then the bottom of the head, and the bottom of the flower. Basically, add it anywhere shadows would naturally appear. Next, move to the flower mesh. Use the darkest flower color from the palette. Then adjust the hue and value to make it slightly darker. After that, start adding Ambient Occlusion to the lower flower area. Next, move to the handcuffs mesh. Just like before, use the darkest color from the handcuff palette. Then add Ambient Occlusion to the lower areas, and around the connection with the arm, and with that, the main Ambient Occlusion areas are finished. Then continue improving the handcuffs, and add more patterns using the same process as before. Next, continue working on the ambient occlusion. Start by fixing the lower arm area, since it should look darker. Then you can also add ambient occlusion inside the line or scratch details. Continue doing the same on the other meshes. Next, we can add generated ambient occlusion to improve and cover areas that were missing from the manual painting. Then, lower the opacity value. You can also change the color channel mode to soft light or overlay, but here I'm using multiply, so the character shading does not change too much. But of course, that part is up to you. Next, we can make the texture colors look more vibrant. Add a hue saturation modifier to the color channel. Then adjust the saturation until it looks right. After that, turn the modifier on and off to compare the difference. Next, let's rebake the texture again. Before that, bake the generated ambient occlusion layer first. This helps speed up the final texture baking process, because baking textures with generated layers can take much longer. So by baking the generated layer first, the full texture bake will become much faster. Finally, save the bake texture image. Next, let's do a simple export test to Godot. Before exporting, rename the animation first and enable Fake User in the Action Editor. Then, export the file as .glb. For the export settings, enable Apply Modifiers. Then save it to the folder you want. Next, open Godot. Create a new project, then import the exported file by dragging and dropping it into the project. After that, create a new 3D scene. Then drag the character file into the 3D node. Then, make it to local. After that, select the animation player. And now, the character animation can be played. And with that, the full Cactus Skull Prisoner character process is complete. Thank you so much for supporting this channel and watching from the beginning. I hope I can make even better content in the future. Thanks again, and see you next time.